Welcome to A Double
and
Dice
with your hosts Kim
and Jocelyn.
Pour your favorite beverage.
Pull up a comfy chair.
Because we are ready to roll.
Welcome to episode 18 of A Double in Dice. And today we have a very, very special guest with us. And that guest today is Jocelyn.
Well, we're very, very excited, extra very, double very, to have Jimmy with us from WizKids. So welcome, Jimmy.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us and agreeing to be on the podcast with us today and accommodating our schedule.
My pleasure.
As Kim likes to say, she's a night owl and I'm an early bird, so we have this little tiny window of time where both of us are awake and not working. And we crammed the podcast in there, so thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's cool to be here.
So Jimmy, at WizKids, you do a bunch of different stuff there, right?
Yeah, so my like WizKids origin was that I knew someone who worked at WizKids, and they were a great advocate for me. That they knew my job was not a career, and they kept bugging Justin like personally that like, hey, we should get Jimmy in here. And the different openings were not good careers. Like they were meaningful work that needed to be done, but it probably would have been unsatisfying. And then finally there was this weird confluence where more than one person needed help with their job, and they needed someone who was just willing to do like 2 half jobs, and then they were going to see what had happened from there. And so like, okay, let's give this guy a shot. And I was that guy, and things went well. So
that's awesome. Yeah. And that's fantastic. So I know you spend some of your time on Dice Masters, but you also work a little bit on HeroClix?
Yeah, so time-wise, at this point, HeroClix is probably the number one thing I spend my time on.
Okay.
I do, some bare minimum legal odds and ends. I work on Dice Masters, and just there are certain things where I know how to do it because I've been around, and I'm able to be helpful to people, and that's a good feeling. So I go with it.
Awesome. So, I know this is a Dice Masters podcast, but Kim and I also play HeroClix. So,
awesome.
A little. Yeah, a little bit. We dabble. Is
okay.
How I like to call it.
We dabble a little bit more.
So it's good.
Yeah. Lately, Rob and I have been dabbling in purchasing cases. So that's not what we dabble anymore.
You're not traveling, right?
Exactly. Yeah. We're not traveling, and there's fewer things going on. So there was some local events happening, and we were able to get involved in playing a little bit more locally. That has been paused as a result of things that are happening right now in the world. But, the Fantastic Four set was amazing.
I'm so glad you liked it. Yeah, it was definitely great to have them back in HeroClix after a long absence.
Yes, absolutely. So really excited by that. And then, of course, the Spider-Man, Venom, and Absolute Carnage set just came out. And I seem to have a bit of a golden touch right now when it comes to opening cases and boxes. So
nice.
We went to a sealed event, and I was able to pull a Venom Doctor Strange and a Venom Groot.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, and then when we opened our case, I pulled Gwen of Arc.
Oh, love Gwen of Arc.
And then I went to a second sealed event, and I pulled Spider Hamurai.
That's really, really good. So, you were in Memphis when we showed those off for the first time. And
yeah, I was, but I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention in Memphis because I was there for Dice Masters.
Yeah, okay, so there's a funny, like, within the crowd conversation that I learned about, because I go up to one of my friends after the fact, and like, people didn't seem so excited about those chases. Like, is this going to be a lead balloon? Like, too late, but genuine concern on my part. And someone's like, no, like, I was standing there and I was like, hey, I asked somebody, hey, aren't you going to pay attention to this? And they're like, no, that's the Dice Masters guy. So HeroClix people missed it because I was doing the talking, and Dice Masters people missed it because they knew it was HeroClix. And so it's just this weird thing of like, surprise, big reveal, and not the normal level of noise from what felt to us like a significant spoiler. Like, hey, WizKids is getting to make up characters. Like, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so really cool stuff.
Yeah, super, a lot of fun.
And then I also pulled a Leonardo da Venom.
Oh, I think he might be the in-office favorite. Like,
he's so pretty.
He's such like a fanciful take on like a beastly individual. Like just a lot of fun there.
Yeah, so very excited about all of that. Although I have yet to pull a steampunk penny, which is kind of the one that I wanted because I have this like robot theme team in mind.
Oh, robot is really good.
Yeah, but maybe one day one will appear. But either way, like the HeroClix stuff, I just want to say that the sculpts are amazing, the abilities are super cool, and a while ago you were on the Chris and Rob Game Room stream, the CRGR folks back earlier this year, and one of the things you mentioned there was that there are far fewer questions about HeroClix than there are about Dice Masters in the rules forum, and you were sort of trying to speculate on why that might be.
Yeah, so a little bit of just who knows, right? But I also suspect that there's a good chance HeroClix went through that phase of its life cycle without the current WizKids rules forum. So it might have gone through that phase of being inundated with questions back when WizKids was owned by Topps or back when WizKids was independent. Mm-hmm. And so now that WizKids is under NECA, things are just sorted themselves out maybe. There's enough veterans and people learn so much at their local store that like us being online might not be the same resource. All that said, like that's a complete guess. Like I've thought about it a little bit before and never come to the same conclusion. So, 2 years from now, there might be a new guess. Who knows?
Yeah, so, I mean, my sort of thought process on that as someone who dabbles in HeroClix and plays Dice Masters is that, first off, HeroClix, as we know, is a much older game, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot more of established, to your point. I think also a lot of it's keyworded, and it's established how the keywords interact with each other.
Yeah, HeroClix has an unusually large number of game terms that a player would experience within any given set, like even including the starter. So I think once people get over that hump, the number of questions gets small because it's, hey, I know what Smoke Cloud does, I know what Willpower does, and that answers it. Yeah. Whereas Dice Masters, I think our efforts to polish the rules over the years have probably also generated some questions for people. Like I want to say like Loki Gemkeeper probably doesn't have the ideal wording for his effect in AVX. Mm-hmm. And so if we were to reprint Loki Gemkeeper today, he would do something different. I think there were probably some rulings made on Imprisoned that were not ideal, and we're not gonna deal with that card anymore, so like it kind of doesn't matter and we've moved past it. Yeah. But the wording versus the intent evolves a lot, and so I think we're in a much better place today, and the number of questions has really ramped down, which I think is a great signal for people go into Dice Masters Unlimited or they go into the Discord and they say, hey, I don't get this. What's going on? Mm-hmm. And so many of those questions are slam dunk. This is absolutely what should be going on. Like no question. And like many of those wouldn't get tackled by the rules forum anyway. Like we would be like, hey, this has been answered. Here it is. See you later.
Yeah.
So it's great that the community can kind of effectively crowdsource that for us. And also I think people feel more connected that way, right? Like people remember, hey, I went to the group and I had a nice interaction and someone explained it to me, and that means something, whereas like it's kind of faceless when it happens on the grayscale, rules forum.
I will say though that I was very excited when my rules question was answered on the rules forum.
You probably asked it very politely. That's often the tiebreaker for us, because some people they show up upset and it's like, I can't have somebody all crazed on the rules forum. Like,
Yeah, and I guess the last rules forum update was a few months back, and there was, I think, 5 questions that were answered at that point, and 3 of them were Canadian questions. So we here at DM North were very excited by that.
You're doing a good job, yeah.
Yeah. So
one of the other things is if people include the quoted text of the cards, that also helps. Unfortunately, though, there have been times when people include quoted text for the card that seems to be their memory of the text and not the actual text. So don't be that guy.
No, for sure. So I thought that was one thing, like the whole keywording and how the keywords work with each other, because even some of the new abilities that are being introduced in HeroClix still have components of how those keyworded abilities work together.
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, we're seeing more keywords in Dice Masters. Right?
Yeah. I think the pace at which keywords are introduced in Dice Masters is a little bit different. But I also kind of like that there's a focus with the keywords in Dice Masters, that you kind of say, well, I don't have every single keyword in Infinity Gauntlet. I might have many. But like if we also had, heroic and 7 other keywords, it would feel busy and you wouldn't be able to like categorize and draft as easily.
Yeah.
So I think that it plays to Dice Master's strengths that, I might have someone with Deadly that's at 2, 3, or 4, but at 2 there's a drawback, and at 3 it's vanilla, and at 4 I get a bonus, or 4 has better stats than 3, or stuff like that. So it's nice that the space is a little bit different.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to pitch 2 HeroClix themes to not themes, but like ideas from HeroClix that I'd like to see in Dice Masters. Cool. So the first one is the concept of theme prob. So we know Dice Masters is a dice rolling game. So in HeroClix, if you're not a HeroClix player, listeners, if you build a theme team where all of your characters have the same theme affiliation, so think about like X-Men, for example, you can get up to 5 rerolls of dice. So I'd love to see some way to impact that in Dice Masters, because there's nothing worse than being the player or playing against the player whose dice just will not roll.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad feeling, like knowing when to cut your losses if you're playing like an old format with parallax and stuff like that. I totally hear what you're saying.
So I'd love to see a way to implement that in Dice Masters.
So I want to hit you with a hard to swallow concept, which is it might be better for the game that you lose that way sometimes. Yeah. Because there is someone who shows up to your local venue who is not as good as you, but they're capable of beating you, right? Theoretically, things could go that way. And eventually they are going to have that game where they beat you, and maybe it's because your dice just don't do well, maybe it's because they go first and everything goes their way, but they're going to feel great about it. And it might not change their purchasing behavior, it might not change how long they play the game, but the fact that it's going to impact their excitement means they're going to be better to be around at a minimum, and I think that is good for the stable effects on communities. And
I think that's very fair.
And I say that, and it's tough for me to say that because I grew up as a competitive gamer who didn't want to be the person to lose that way for a long time, and so to have to kind of sit as the business person and not just the competitor, it's been a really interesting perspective change, and to like kind of look back on games that way has been a nice growing experience.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from, 100%. The second thing is the concept of a sideline. So in HeroClix, you can, have cards on your sideline or characters on your sideline that come in through various effects. So I have been pitching this for a while. Some people may have heard me pitch this before. I think if you naturally roll one of each energy type, you should be able to bring in a 4-cost crossover character that's 4 different energy types, regardless of whether or not it's on your team. It should just be sitting there, like a Black Lantern or a White Lantern card of your choice. Just because you naturally rolled that. Like, you can't do it through clayfacing in an energy type.
Yeah. Clayfacing the dual crossover, and you're halfway there for the cost of a mask. Yeah.
No, you got to roll it.
Okay.
Maybe it's a separate format, like a special, format.
A special team pack just for Jocelyn named What If.
I have to think about it a lot because it's very unlike anything I've considered before. So that's really good that you got into uncharted territory.
Well, I'm excited about that, but yeah, it's something that I every so often you roll it and you look down at your dice and say, hey, that's one of every energy type. Yeah. It's 4 sidekicks and you rolled a bolt, a mask, a shield, and a fist. It doesn't happen very often, right?
But so it's funny you talk about that because playing as someone who I know this game is about to come out, and we haven't even really seen people play it in person yet. The playtest groups did their thing, and this is what's gonna hit store shelves. I was like, oh, it's gonna be critical that no matter what you roll, you could spend everything, and that was the only team construction metric I had at the beginning with AVX. Mm-hmm. I was like, I need to spend every single energy I get on that first turn, and it was like, oh, this is the thing to do. I'm like, that's only the beginning by so many ways. But yeah, I think you're describing a pattern that comes from a great moment of tension that the game has of what's it going to be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just those are my 2 HeroClix ideas I'd like to see in Dice Masters someday. And I think in a way the whole theme prog thing, you guys have kind of addressed that sort of with Energize.
So the beginning of Energize is basically how about we take something that's not fun in Dice Masters and make it fun. And so I think that it's been a mixed bag of success because we don't want everyone to just trample over everybody else because they have the Energized team, but at the same time, people are intrigued by these characters and they try to use them, and X-Force kind of plays as the Energized bunch, and so there's some neat stuff going on there.
Yeah, one thing I liked in Infinity Gauntlet is that some of these Energized characters have Energized abilities, but also character abilities.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing for them to see more play.
Mm-hmm. Because if it's just an Energized ability and you've got to roll it on double energy face, then it's not quite as appealing. But if it has a character ability as well, then you've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, you're live on 5 faces then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to roll a character and it's an Energize only, and you're like, oh, now what am I going to do?
I think did you see the Mystique spoiler from DM Armada the other day?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mystique is giving you Brotherhood discounts on 5 faces. So if that's what you care about, it's not always going to be the same discount guaranteed, but you're getting something.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So probably we should get into some actual more Dice Masters talk here instead of talking about HeroClix the whole time. So
maybe another podcast.
Yeah. So Kim.
So I want to ask you a bit about the designing of Dice Masters. Can you give us a bit of a background, what goes into, let's say, designing a card, the art, the text, things like that?
So we've got to get licensor approval, right? So we kind of decide what do we think is compelling or hot as far as the theme, and then we kind of work it from there. Hey, we have to go to them with our pitch for this is what we plan on doing for the year, and then we get clearance, and the next step is this is who we would like to include, and that list normally, depending on the license, is either exactly what we like because we know that it's an easygoing licensor. Sometimes it's over by a few characters because we expect certain things to be we're told now. So then we have that list of characters, and we go and try to figure out, either after it's approved or while we're waiting to hear back, well, what do we want the set to do and feel like? And that's enough guidance to get the designers to go do their thing. So right now, if you kind of consider the metagame, we came off of the Yuan Ti is doing way too much feel, and that was fresh in a lot of people's minds. And we said, hey, we want combat to matter more. That attacking people is what we tell them to do to win the game. let's make that more realistic at the competitive level. And so then you saw the metagame kind of evolve with the Black Widow team that got the finals, and Ben Said Scott's team that was, attacking with the question and doing Justice League stuff and all of its other antics. So, I guess the design happens from a lot of directions, but there's kind of the top down for theme. We're trying to create a feeling for people to experience in events and in metagame play, and there's also, I guess, the idea of like interesting and hard choices throughout the cards. So, like to go way back, if you look at like the different versions of Constantine in the old DC Justice League set, Hellblazer was the best one because characters were just so good. But the other versions of him in a different metagame would have been the more important cards. And making people choose between those different things on their team is really neat. And like, it's even kind of wacky if you think about it from the perspective of there were very few ways to deal with actions back then, but Constantine was one. But if you wanted to do that, you had to forego one of the best things to deal with characters. So like, it's a tough metagame call. And like that's.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, like that's part of why when you see like other action hate later, that might not be as effective, but the actions are more important. That action hate would see playing the metagame like the one Scarlet Witch. Yeah. So, we're always just trying to make sure. I guess there's those like pressure relief valves. Like, hey, well, what if this goes crazy? What if that goes crazy? I guess the other thing, I don't think of it as a pressure relief valve so much as like there tend to be cards that are stalemate blockers, and sometimes those cards go wild, like Cloudkill. Like, hey, if you just build up a whole ton of blockers, Cloudkill is going to help the game reach an end, right? It's not just going to be nobody wants to do anything or something. But on the flip side, we saw Cloudkill was incredibly effective for just clearing the way when someone had, 2 or 0 energy because you had elf thiefed them out of it.
Cloudkill was a basic action, right?
Yeah, Cloudkill is a basic action from, I think, the second D&D set.
It's from one of the D&D sets. It's from before I kind of was into it. So I do have it. I played it once. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I don't remember what it does right now.
Cloudkill deals 1 damage to all opposing characters, and then for every character that it damages, your opponent can pay 1. If they don't, that character can't block.
Oh, right.
And so, it's not a good position to be in to get hit with a Cloudkill. But that's also one of the neat things to like put a stalemate blocker in the basic action slot is neat because now your opponent's gonna have access to it. But like maybe your team is Guy, Gardner, and Miri, and all you're gonna do is attack. So who cares if you can't block? Like,
yeah. Well, thinking like on that theme of making difficult choices, I think back to another DM Armada video that just came out with all of the Mr. Sinister spoilers from Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough.
So you've got 4 Mr. Sinister rarities, and each one has a different global ability on it. And I would say like all of them are valuable. So you've got one that makes something deadly. You've got one that gives something overcrash. You've got like the Atlantis global that, except it's going to be too generic. Right, so field a sidekick and prep a sidekick, but it's generic energy instead of typed energy. And I don't remember what the third one was, or the fourth one.
I think the fourth one is like temporarily blank a die.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So lots of really good choices there just for global abilities, but you can only have one Mr. Sinister on your team.
Yeah.
That's
so which one's it going to be?
You got to build a team around the one you pick.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be resistant in some way to the one that your opponent gets to use on you.
Yeah. So you said that you guys sort of come to the licensor with some suggestions, and so you could have the theme in mind, and then you build it that way. And then I imagine sometimes licensors, like you said, are more involved and want more feedback or provide more suggestions, whereas other ones you've worked with a lot, so you know how things are going to go pretty well.
Yeah, and a lot of the time, we're not dealing. We don't have we don't have the luxury of doing business with difficult people. Like WizKids just does so much stuff with so few employees that if some license was gonna be really challenging every time, like we just couldn't do it. But like also we're trying to be good partners. So like Turtles is an example where it's challenging because what Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles means to a lot of different people is so radically different. There's people who grew up with the cartoon. There's people who only care about the comic books. There's kids who don't even know the old cartoon and they just know the like 3D animation stuff. And so when they kind of come to us with, well, typically our products don't mix stuff. Here's some rules of the road. We figure out how to play by the rules and we put out a product based on it. But I think those kinds of situations are a helpful creative pressure more than they are a hindrance for the most part.
So on the subject of licenses and IPs, I don't know if you can say anything on this or not, but as a player, Jimmy, not as a WizKids employee.
Okay.
Is there an IP that you wish that you could have? Is there something you could say, if I had a choice, I would go after this IP, or?
I think that we're really lucky to have such good relationships with the comic companies, and I think that's a ton of fun to help interpret those things that I enjoy into a game that I enjoy. I think many people have guessed this, so it's not like some huge reveal or whatever. Personally, I could really enjoy playing Pokemon Dice Masters. It's just a franchise that means a lot to me. Yeah. It's a game I grew up with. So yeah, I think that would be a lot of fun. I get that they have their own, not only their own game or games plural, but they've got their whole ecosystem set up so that outside companies like us just don't have a good fit for them probably, and so it's not like it's something that I'm gonna go bang on my boss's door and say we got to do this. Like it's just okay. Like if it falls in our lap, we'll make the most of it, but it's probably outside of the possible.
So we can have a mechanic that like you got to catch them all.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Solar variants or something.
So is there so on that, like we did just see a bunch of leaks out of the Alliance open house that just happened, the online open house.
I would say that I prefer spoilers because those were things we meant for people to know about. And
okay.
Yeah, leaks is disgruntled Johnny sends you the files off of our server, right?
Okay, fair enough. So
okay.
spoilers from the Alliance open house.
Yeah.
And what we saw was there's some new Marvel sets coming.
Mm-hmm.
There was some chat, of course, about the Dark Phoenix set, which we already know is coming and has a release date, which is very, very exciting. But nothing in a new IP. Are there any, I know you probably can't provide trade secrets, but are there new IPs in the pipeline?
Deals pop up faster than we expect, and sometimes deals fall apart before the ink is dry, so we can't really announce out of step.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But the other thing that excited a lot of people, myself included, was this solo play Fantastic Four versus Galactus thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything you can say about that at this point.
Not really, and that's mostly because it's outside of the cycle of our previews. Like, we don't want to provide a bunch of marketing distraction from Dark Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's the thing that's next, and up until shortly before its release, it will be our primary focus. I think the community got a little bit of extra from Memphis, and we're coming back down to normal levels now of where the previews go.
Okay.
Because you had mentioned, I think you mentioned it on a Facebook thing about Spider-Man set obviously not getting canceled, and then the Fantastic Four coming into place, correct?
Yep.
Of that? Okay.
So I think that's kind of a situation where having too many different points of entry that are dissimilar from one another is challenging on retailers. And so we don't want to have distribution try to communicate that. It's just easier to kind of say, like, yeah, if someone wants to play with their friend, grab a campaign box. Someone wants to get started playing on their own, grab this other thing.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I'm very excited to see what that's about. Love the Fantastic Four. As I mentioned, the HeroClix were awesome, and huge fan of the Fantastic Four comics. And the Future Foundation. So
yeah, Future Foundation was a fun read. Like when I knew that we were gonna have the chance to do Fantastic Four again, I sat down and I didn't expect to read a few hundred issues over like a month and a half, and it happened.
Yeah, I've only read the more recentish stuff, but really enjoyed it. Was it Matt Fraction's run?
Oh yeah, the Fraction run is good.
Yeah, which was really fantastic, and quite enjoyed that.
So since you read a whole bunch of comic books there, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Do you see a lot of art in those that you bring into Dice Masters, like, or?
So I got a really helpful tip at an earlier stage in my career, which was from a designer who used to work at Marvel, which was save yourself a bunch of time. The best art is usually on the covers. And it's like, oh, that makes so much sense, but like until you hear the words for it, it doesn't always click. And so if you kind of take that and go back and look at Dice Master stuff, yeah. Whether it's been me or people helping me grab the art, we've really tried to live that and go use really good looking cover art. And so when people go and look at, Infinity Gauntlet, it looks so good because it might be 100% covers. Like there might be one or two that aren't, but it's very close to completely covers. But then you also have the problem where not everyone in the version that we're trying to depict gets a cover. Clayface didn't get a cover during Justice, but the art is still good, but the framing and stuff is just a little unusual. And so I think that I'm happy with how things look, and I think that things always turn out well because of our design team being so flexible. But yeah, the best art is usually the covers.
So you get to pick some of that stuff, Jimmy?
I get to help with a lot of that, not as much as I used to. Mm-hmm. And that's also nice to get to like train up other people on how to do that kind of thing.
A couple months ago, I had gone to a city about an hour away, and we went to a comic warehouse, and I happened to come across the Domino cover from X-Men Forever.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see that.
I feel like Domino's a character who I feel like gets a lot of really good cover art. Mm-hmm. Like there's a bunch of characters where they like either have dry spells or they're in group shots where they're not in a favorable position, but she normally gets a really solid treatment.
Yeah, it was really cool. I'm like, hey, this is the Dice Masters card.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
The other thing is when you look at some of this art, a lot of it might be good art, but someone's head is too high up in the frame, and so we don't want to paste their name over their head.
Right.
So
a lot of things to consider.
Yeah.
Now, do the design team try to match art to abilities, or is it whatever feels?
Oh no, those are usually pretty independent, but like they're both drawing from the same source material, so you're bound to get some overlap, right? Like the Human Torch is a guy who's on fire. Got it.
Check.
Yeah. And so it helps that there's like a rich core to what we're dealing with, that everybody can work independently and get to a similar place.
Right. Yeah. I think if I had a job, I would like that job, just picking art. Art for cards.
You have a job, Kim.
I do?
It's called being mother.
That's true.
You're a stay-at-home mom, and also right now you're a full-time teacher.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's tough.
So I think this one's coming from Matt. Is one for the Fantastic Four versus Galactus is, can he please have an oversized Galactus card?
We might do that. We don't want to make it hard for people to carry it around if it's competitive, right? Like, and so And then there's also like, well, will everything be compatible for standard play, or will only some of it be, and what's that going to look like? So that's still in the works, and so we're gonna tell you guys when we can start revealing stuff.
Cool.
Well, hey, I mean, you guys have this big, massive HeroClix thing coming out that's a Galactus, and that's going to be competitive play. I've seen that tile. So if people can carry that to a HeroClix event, we can take an oversized card.
Yeah, but we've already kind of conditioned those players, right? That we have them carry around 3 or 4 medium-sized guys, and so now that they're going to have to carry the huge one, it's just one more thing.
Just laminate it with a fold down the middle.
Yeah, not. I don't want creases in our cards. Like,
no, I don't either. I'm just.
Yeah.
No,
I'd rather do like a hinge.
On the art thing, Matt has also asked us to see if there's any way he can get a dupe on a motorcycle on a card somewhere. So if you're working on any OP stuff,
never say never.
It is pretty cool. We saw it, of course, in the HeroClix, and it's a pretty cool figure, and would love to see that on a Dice Masters card.
Mm-hmm.
So from your perspective, Jimmy, is there ever a card that you were like really excited when you launched it and thought this is going to be like the best card ever, and then it didn't pan out the way you thought it might?
So I thought that the Energized Psylocke would have seen more play.
Okay.
And I wasn't expecting it to be ubiquitous, but it felt like it didn't really have the impact I was expecting. And like playing more games with it after release, I totally see why. But
that's the one that when you energize, you get to field the sidekick from your used pile.
Yeah, and so the fact that used piles are normally not populated with sidekicks when you're fielding Psylocke, it makes sense that there's like a mismatch in the timing, and she's definitely not the first character to suffer from something like that. It's just surprising that it wasn't more pronounced during playtesting.
Well, I mean, it's not a nowhere card. I mean, Laurier played it on his Canadian Nationals winning team in 2019.
Yeah,
right?
I thought that would have meant it got a bigger bump after the fact, that more people would have tried to chase it down and use it.
Well, maybe it's still got its time to come.
Maybe there's something brewing that we don't know about yet.
More abilities are happening, and more opportunities to re-roll outside of steps. Like we're seeing that with the Infinity Gauntlet. I think one of the Black Swans lets you re-roll during the attack step.
Yeah.
Which could let you do an energized trigger. So maybe we'll see more of that coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, there's also like neat timing. I think there's like the one Captain Marvel that you could reroll your opponent's stuff, but then they actually get to bring in a sidekick as a blocker. So like there's some neat metagame play there, but that's not what the metagame looks like. So
not right now. Right now the game looks like a lot of Becky Lynch and Godcatchers. So. Yeah. But there's lots of cool formats and themes and other things that you can do with that as well. And I think there's some really cool stuff coming down the pipe. So, on the flip side of that...
Sorry, since Jocelyn brought up Becky and Godcatcher, just a question. Did you think those two cards would be top up there when you guys were designing it? Or?
Yeah. We thought Becky was going to be there. Godcatcher was more of an attempt by the designers to push the envelope, because you just didn't have those, fat attackers going in. Like, that's just not a way that people experienced the game since, formerly Weapon 10 and, Ant-Man. Like, it wasn't happening. So the envelope got pushed and it mattered. Like...
Well, you gotta push the envelope sometimes.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And I know people have... There's been some threads lately where people are kind of like, oh, I can't believe these things are so strong. There's those two, and there's the Super Rare Thor. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there are teams that might play 2 of the 3, and they enjoy a lot of the same support, but they feel meaningfully different to play against, and so that's still interesting to me. I'm probably in the minority when I'm like, oh yeah, but there were Bard teams that were different from one another that felt meaningfully different to play against one another. In hindsight, I wish those teams had been more different than they were, and I think that's kind of where we're at with the metagame right now. And I know that for a lot of people casually, it's probably exciting to go play in an event, online, in person, whatever, and you sit down and you play against 5 different teams. But getting to practice against 2 different variants of the same team during an event actually lets you grow a little bit more as a player. And so I think there's benefits to all different kinds of metagames existing.
Absolutely. So you talked about a card that was less popular than you expected it to be. Was there a card that was more popular than you expected it to be?
I think the Common Elf Thief we expected to be good, but it really was more of a shining star than we thought. I think 2 cards that were a big gap were the Pseudo Dragon Paragon Familiar that let your attuned guys deal 2 instead of 1 damage, and the Zendala Simber Destined for Greatness that let you re-roll if there was a good character. And those 2 were directly related, because if your opponent had the Pseudo Dragon out, it was good. So then your Zendala they couldn't get rid of it, and it could do attune to retaliate and all sorts of other weird stuff. So that metagame was more combo centric than we had envisioned, and so that's kind of neat. But yeah, if the game always released as a solved problem, I don't think it would have the long-term appeal that it has.
Yeah, I like the variety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think if there's one card that we were on the money completely for how widespread it was going to be, it would probably be Constantine Hellblazer, because it was, there's an article that I wrote for our website, what is now forever ago, but it was so good that he was not a counter to himself and would benefit nearly every team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, speaking about in-person play.
Okay.
Kim and I here, we run this podcast, and we got into it because we find that there's not a lot of women playing Dice Masters. I was wondering if you had any thoughts on how we continue to engage more people in playing this game, whether it's women or people that are marginalized in other ways, or just getting people out to the game store when game stores are open again. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So, I think this is, on some level, this is kind of all politics is local, right? Are you can you? I think we're really fortunate. We have lots of people who they are friendly Dice Masters players and they go to their local store. I think I don't want to talk about this without saying we want to launch OP out of the cannon again when we can, but we also don't want to encourage a bunch of stores to go and do certain things during COVID that might not be the best. And so we've got stuff in process. It's just hard to get brand new stuff moving as quickly as we'd like. So that's kind of more OP in general, but as far as inclusion, I think that it has helped Dice Masters that throughout different metagames and different licenses, you've consistently seen a diverse cast of competitive characters. You've had Black Widow, you've had Miri Riam. There have been different iterations of Wonder Woman that have been good. If you played a bunch of turtles, you should have been putting April on your team. Rennet Tilly was a little bit of a thing. Shriek was good. So I think that helps. And even outside of men and women, we've also had creatures and non-people that have been good in the game. So that's nice. But we're not trying to get the beholder out to the game store. So I understand that really doesn't do as much. But I think that us just being welcoming and keeping, and even when talking about the art and the covers and stuff, there are probably pieces of art that would not shock you to appear on a comic book cover on the shelf at a store that might be a little bit too suggestive or cheesecake-like for us to want to go throw it onto the Dice Masters cards. Maybe there might have been some that we missed, right? That we put it on and it was but hopefully we've done a good job. And that's something that we care about. And so I think I like to think we've done a good track record. I think per capita we have better representation in Dice Masters than we do in HeroClix, and I'm not sure why. And maybe it's just the cross section of people that I interact with, or who knows. But hopefully, as we start to focus on some acquisition stuff with HeroClix, we kind of can draw in more women as well. One thing I observed in Dice Masters that I have not personally observed in other competitive games, in some of the early championship events, we had a man who showed up. Really, you could tell from the interactions that he was there to support his wife who loved the game, and she was much more into it than he was, and he was happy to play and have a nice time and not do so great, but like that was nice to see the reversal of the stereotype, even if it's not every single event or something like that. So I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of welcomeness. Yeah,
that's good, and I like that that you're looking at that from the art perspective, the team perspective, and those cards that are sort of competitive level. I mean, certainly the level of people that come to an in-person Dice Masters competitive event, like I think about Worlds last year, I think we had 36 people competing in Worlds, if I remember right.
It sounds about right, yeah.
I could go back through my notes. I do have a picture of the standings, but I'm pretty sure it was 36. I'm sure that this game does not live on the competitive level alone. There's probably a lot of kitchen table players, people playing at home, people that didn't even know you could go to a game store or play this game competitively.
Absolutely.
Right?
We definitely depend on those people because we know that they are like soaking up product from local stores.
Yeah, and that was me and Rob when we first got into it, and Kim when you first got into it. Like Kim got into it playing by herself.
Solo, so I'm looking forward to solo play.
Because her husband doesn't play. Yep. And, Rob heard about it on a podcast, and he and I picked it up at a convention, and we're figuring it out in our hotel room with a Justice League starter set and some YouTube videos. And eventually we got the hang of it. So
that old Watch It Played video has definitely put in a lot of getting people started on Dice Masters. Yeah, shout out to Rod.
Well,
that's the video I've ever seen. Yeah, that's what got me into it.
Well, just this past weekend, we had a socially distanced event in one of our local stores, and the two new players that we did like a learn to play because they had reached out to us. They found us through our Facebook page, and they both got into it, Kim, because they saw Rodney's video.
There you go.
And that's new. Like they just got into it recently, so. He saw the video, he bought someone's collection, now he's out there buying everything he can find.
It's such a good video, and Rodney is very talented. If you're someone who is experienced, but you plan on teaching others, it's still worth a watch for you that you're going to think about the stuff in a more beginner-friendly way.
Well, Rob is really good at that.
His video was, he was showing AVX.
Yeah.
That was the first set I got, and that's the only set I ever completed. So
that's not true. You have campaign boxes; those are complete.
Well, I'm talking collecting, right? The whole time. Ouch! She's like so. So yeah, AVX is the only set I ever completed.
No, collectible wise, that's an achievement too from AVX.
It's a set to collect though. Like there's, other than Invisible Woman, there's no one missing. Like.
Well, how do you know she's missing? She's invisible.
She's visible, yeah.
Right.
So I think a lot of people with the Fantastic Four coming out will wonder, will she be there? So
yeah, she's gonna be there.
Woohoo!
Oh, there you go. Invisible. So I know with the whole thing going around in the world now, and everybody's kind of, not really forced, but online pretty much exploded right now. So we're doing a lot of online play, all their tournaments, and now, with Worlds coming up this weekend, the time of this recording. So that's online too. What was your take on? Did you think that it was going to take off like this with Dice Masters being played online, or is it just?
I'm happily surprised. I think that Dice Masters Online is a better experience than a lot of other tabletop games online, and I think that has been critical. I think we also have, from my guess, an unusually tech-savvy community, and it's been really nice to see some people pop up to be a part of that infrastructure who were not known quantities, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago to me. So that's cool. I also had mentioned this somewhere recently, when people are talking about a time before they played and doing a little speculation or whatever, it's really healthy that there's so many people who weren't playing 2 years ago that are brand new, and so that's a really nice indicator.
Yeah, we're getting I think we got a lot of new people playing online and have joined recently. So yeah, it's really good to see those people, coming out and playing, especially.
Yeah, and some people that have played for a long time but have never jumped into the online arena, for example. I think of, we had Craig Hubner on the podcast a while back, and I had met him at Worlds, and he is admittedly and has, said not very tech savvy, doesn't have a lot of technology access, but he played in the EarthX Origins online event. So he figured it out and was able to get set up and play in that event. So it's good to see that as well.
For sure.
Do you think there will ever be an opportunity? So the win, I'm sure, is a...
Sorry, you keep going, because I know the question. You keep going.
I was going to say the win is sort of the online competitive where you guys record scores, and I'm sure you look at that to see what the online play is like. Of course, not online play, in-store play.
In-store.
Do you think there's ever going to be an opportunity for something like that online for event organizers to use the win, or is that going to be something that's going to be exclusively to stores?
Maybe. So the win is constantly just something that we're trying to tweak and update and improve. What you're talking about here is probably not within the next 2 or 3 steps.
Mm-hmm.
And so we might enable that. I just don't know when it might be live for users.
Okay, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about bragging rights. Everybody wants to be on, number one.
Yeah.
Lately, most of my games are on HeroClix, so.
Which is interesting. Isn't high points for that or something you have to put in on HeroClix?
I don't know. I don't put the points in. I just show up and someone else puts the points in for me. Most of the time it's a loss, so it doesn't matter much. But the games are there. The games are there.
As long as you're having fun.
Always having fun. Kim, what else have we got here?
So you're a big Pokemon fan. We've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of mechanics from that game that you would like to see adopted in Dice Masters? Though I've never played the game. I've seen it. So I don't even know what the abilities and stuff or how it even works.
Not totally, but I think that it surprises me in a way that community is different from ours in some ways. That there are people within Pokemon who they pick their favorite, and that's something they collect, and they care about it a lot, and they want every single version and variant and promo and foil, you name it. I don't hear about people collecting Dice Masters that way. I don't think of anyone as being the Captain America guy, and they need it in the regular, the promo, the French promo, the double-sided French German, the foil. There could be that person, but we as WizKids don't hear from them. Maybe you two interact with some of these people, but I hope they're out there and I hope they're enjoying it. It's just they're not vocal participants.
Right. No, I think a lot of people if we get an interesting, what is it oh, I got this odd die that was a different mold. I think a lot of people go after that stuff.
Yeah, and people have gotten like the dice from other games. People have gotten the like the end of the run dice. Yeah. So there's definitely some of those that are neat. But
yeah, I don't think I've ever seen anybody who's like, oh my gosh, I need every Captain America there was ever printed dice. There's every like.
And like maybe those people exist, but they've just done it slowly and quietly. I don't know.
Maybe they like the art and how the card looks, so they want to, I don't know, not really playing.
Yeah, or like even to that point, like there's some people within Pokemon who collect, like they pick their favorite artist, and whenever that artist gets a card, they go and collect it. Yeah. Okay, but like I don't know that anyone feels that way even about like the prolific artists within comics. Like is someone like, man, Adam Hughes art, got to go get this. Like.
Yeah. Maybe it's out there, but we probably don't hear it.
If people are collecting, like that's awesome, and I'm glad they're enjoying it. But like, I haven't heard from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of that stuff is interesting when it comes up, right? So I know in Infinity Gauntlet, Rob got one of those dice that was like the end of one and the other. So it's a miscolored black dwarf.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it's Corvus Glaive colored, but it's a black dwarf die.
Okay.
So, or vice versa, one or the other. I'm pretty sure it was a black dwarf die. Anyway, he was really excited to get it. So it was collectible. Like, something unique, right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, they're very rare because quality control tries to get rid of them. So.
Yeah, well, one slipped through, and it's safely stored here in Canada. Cool. So we're good with that. Just like those prototype cards from Memphis, right? So those are coveted by collectors.
Oh yeah. Those are among the rarest Dice Masters things that we have ever made.
Yeah.
Like full stop.
Yeah, it was really exciting to be part of that, and to have some of those cards, it was really cool. So very, very lucky to do that.
I mean, so I guess it's sad. This would be the week we would all be going down to Memphis, right? Like
it would be, which is kind of sad, but it's the state of the world right now, right? So we have to do what we can to keep people safe, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to go to a crowded place. I get it. Like
no. So next on the docket, I guess, is Dark Phoenix.
Cool.
Dark Phoenix Saga. That's November 25th, I believe. So looking forward to that. I've got my product on order, so hoping to see that soon, and looking forward to getting into some of that and seeing some spoilers. And thanks for those spoilers that you gave us, Jimmy.
Yeah, my pleasure.
By the time this episode comes out, they'll be live. So.
Cool. So I know that people are often interested in mechanics and like thought processes. I'm gonna kind of say this, which is it's not specific to these Wolverines, but you saw the characters within the set that reference back to Wolverine. And so it's neat that the guy who was like Lone Wolf, formerly Weapon 10, 7 years later is now the combat veteran team leader guy. So even though it's the same character, when there's 60 years worth of stories for us to pull from, we can do some pretty surprising stuff, which I think is neat.
Yeah, we're really excited by those, and the art is beautiful, and I'm sure by the time this episode comes out, there'll be lots of comments on however it is we've decided to spoil those, because we haven't decided yet.
Yeah. Do what you think makes sense.
But it'll be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that, just like we did with the Spider-Man cards that you were able to share with us a couple weeks ago in our trivia stream. So
yeah,
that was super awesome. On that mechanics piece, is there any other hints that you can give us of something new that might be coming that hasn't been spoiled yet?
So I don't think so exactly. I think one of the things you might start to see a little bit more of in Kryptonite Crisis is characters who are doing similar things, even if it's not keyworded. So, like, I'm gonna get fielded for free under certain conditions, or you can't do certain things under certain conditions. And even though it might not all be strictly the same by keywording, I think it's going to be easier to process while you're drafting, and I think that's going to be a nice touch.
Cool. And hopefully by the time Kryptonite Crisis comes out, we will be able to be in stores and draft in person.
Yeah, knock on wood, right?
Yeah, here's hoping, but in the meantime, keeping people safe.
Yep.
Jimmy, did you have any questions for us? We've just been like inundating you for the last whatever hour.
So I was gonna ask kind of what was Kim's origin story as far as her getting into Dice Masters, but you guys kind of mentioned that earlier, that she saw the Rodney video and learned to play on her own. So I guess
Like how you said that origin story. I love it.
Oh yeah, like working around so much like superhero stuff all the time really contextualizes how I look at regular people's experiences.
Yeah.
So, I don't like it's so I guess not that I'm trying to promise something here, right, based on what your answer is, but just out of curiosity, if you could have a Dice Master set based on one Marvel movie, what would you hope that it would end up being?
Oh, one Marvel movie?
Just one, yeah.
I gotta go through all the Marvel movies in my head.
There's a lot of Marvel movies, Jimmy.
There are. I would want something. You know what? It's. She really intrigues me, and I think she has a movie coming out. Hopefully, it releases Black Widow.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, Black
I think
Widow
she's an interesting character. She's mysterious.
I thought you were gonna hit me with like a dark horse pick and be like Blade 2. I'm like, I don't know, that counts, I guess, but like.
No, I was thinking about Black Widow as well.
Yeah.
So I think that would be super awesome. I have always thought Scarlett Johansson has done a really good job as that character. And I think that movie is much later than I would have liked to see it come out, but I'm glad that they're finally doing it.
I agree with all that, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Captain Marvel too, maybe. Look at us talking about ladies here, but she. I think when I saw the movie, I'm like, I think there's a lot to her too. So
yeah, for sure.
It might be an interesting one as well. I think we've seen a lot of Thors and Captain Americas and Iron Man and Hulks, and we might see something a bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I was looking at a comic though, I would probably go with like Hawkeye.
The Fraction Run?
Yeah, Hawkeye Kate Bishop.
Yeah, we've gotten some requests on that for sure.
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed that, and it's also the print on my mat that I took to
nice.
Worlds. So I have some Hawkeye fabric that I made into my dice bag. It's just a bit of a thing there. So yeah, that's really good, and of course, very excited about the Fantastic Four. So.
Oh yeah, no, so are we. Like, long time coming.
Yeah, and I think Secret Wars could be really interesting when we get more information on that. I know that's much further down in the pipeline, but I haven't read that. But there's, from what I hear, there's a lot to choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big event, right?
Yeah, very, very big event. Like, I think it feels like it took over Marvel for almost a year, but it was probably only like a few months. But yeah, it was dramatic.
Yeah, the other sort of big run of comics that I really enjoyed was Peter David's X Factor. But the second version, like it's the newer one from the early 2000s, I guess. Because he wrote it back in the 80s, and then he relaunched it in the 2000s. And it's Madrox's investigations, and there's all kinds of cool folks in there. And we've seen some of them in some of the stuff, like Multiple Man and I can't think of any of the other characters right now, but I'd love to see a Layla Miller card.
Oh yeah, no, she's cool.
Yeah, so she's pretty cool. So that would be something down the line. So I also really enjoyed, from a DC perspective, I enjoyed the Wonder Woman movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, no, Wonder Woman movie was solid. I'm looking forward to the sequel.
Yeah.
Hopefully it will sometime come out.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we had for you, Jimmy, and we really appreciate your time. So thank you so much for coming on.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you for the opportunity to
thank you
spoil
very
some cards.
much.
And hopefully we're seeing each other in person at Origins or something next year.
I hope so. Here's hoping to open borders and less pandemic.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, take care.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks. Bye. Well, that was awesome.
That was awesome. That was a great conversation, and we hope that all of you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, what else can we talk about today? How can you top that?
To talk about.
Episode 18, and here we are. We've had Jimmy O'Brien on. Who's left? From a guest perspective, who could we bring?
I don't know.
No, but yeah, so we hope you enjoyed that. We hope it provided some good context. We really appreciate Jimmy taking the time to join us today. And I guess we do have a couple of things to talk about just before we wrap up the episode. So hey, Kim, did we get anything in the mailbag this week?
We did. So I'll talk a little bit about our Dice Social.
Okay.
It's officially, we're going to have one coming up on Saturday, October 24th at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Eastern
And we
time.
have a theme.
Eastern time, right?
Eastern time, yep. We'll meet in our Dice Masters, our DM North room, number 9, but all the details will be out. Our last podcast, we did not have a theme, but we do have one. We do have one now. So the theme would be, this would be golden. You gotta build a team that the first letter of each card title on your team must start with DICESOCIAL, which spells out
Dice Social.
There you go. Since it's our first one, and it's funny enough, it's exactly 10 letters.
Funnily enough, or conveniently coordinated?
Maybe conveniently. I don't know. One of the two. I found out might be for the first one. It might be a little neat to see what people come up with. So we'll be launching a channel in the Discord, so look out for that maybe after Worlds. Again, the time of this recording, Worlds is happening this weekend, which is our Canadian Thanksgiving weekend.
Just Thanksgiving, Kim. It's just Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving weekend. What did I say?
You said Canadian Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, yeah.
The other one's American Thanksgiving. That's true. This is Thanksgiving.
Well, it's our Thanksgiving. It's different.
That's right.
One, but
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. So once that is over and done with, we will launch the Dice Social. So look up for that channel in the Discord, and it will have all the details in there.
Yeah. Very much looking forward to getting together and rolling some dice in a social, casual way. And just remember, people, Golden does not exclude Modern. So you can, like me, build a Modern-only team that spells Dice Social. You do not have to go back into the Golden catalog if you don't want to. But again, we want to keep it as open as possible to people who maybe have limited collections. So, go out there, build something. We don't think there's anything too broken in this format. Please don't prove us wrong.
Yeah.
Be friendly.
This is very casual and very green event, so we want people to have fun. And I was going to say something, now it slipped my mind. Oh yeah, Golden's everything, not just older sets. So
yeah.
Oh, if you can't fit the theme, don't worry about it. Bring a team that you like or closest to. Don't feel like if you can't you can't come. No worries. Just build whatever you like and come play with us. That's all that matters.
Awesome. Fantastic. Anything else, Kim?
You renovate that Dice Masters vs. Cancer is coming up again in November?
Yes. Dice Masters vs. Cancer is November 26th? Question mark as you check the calendar. 28th.
Oh, okay.
November 28th, Dice Masters vs. Cancer, with the Ministry of Dice, hosted by the Ministry of Dice. It will be online so that you can participate. Check out BritRoller6.com for full details as they are released, which by the time this podcast comes out there probably will have been an announcement. So check that out. And of course, check out our friends over at the Ministry of Dice and their podcast. We like Chris and Andy, and they're great folks, and they're putting on this fantastic event to help beat cancer, which I think is great. So.
And I think that's it for the announcements.
All right. So if you liked today's episode, or if you didn't like today's episode, or if there's a question you wish we could have asked Jimmy, send us an email. You can reach us at dm-north.com. You can also comment on our blog post on dm-north.com. You can send us a message through the Discord. You can find Kim as @SuperK, or myself at jbowme, JBOUWME, on Discord. Of course, we have all of the other socials. So on Facebook, you can find us at Dice Masters North. On Instagram, same thing, Dice Masters North. On Twitter, Dice Masters North without the O, but if you search it with the O, you can still find it. So we're in all of those places. And then, of course, you can always check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Dice Masters North, or our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Dice Masters North, where you can find lots of great content that we're putting out for Dice Masters. And until next time, on a double on dice.